Today, I'm going to cover the 3 most common questions that we get asked around dialing in a new bag of beans into your grinder to reduce wastage. So we hear some really funny stories where people buy a little bag like this, 200 grams, 250 grams, and they nearly use the whole bag before they get an amazing shot. Or if you've got a bag of beans and you don't know where you're changing from one grind setting to another, maybe you've just topped up your hopper and you've got some old grind or new grind in there, and they can cause challenges in your extractions. So the first thing we're going to cover is the settings on a grinder. Now you need to understand how a grinder works. And on the top of your grinder, if you remove your hopper, there is a collar. Now this is a flat burr grinder and it's going to be the same on any conical grinder. And you'll see a whole range of numbers. And they're really just a reference point. They're not there to say, I need to have my grind setting on number 5. And the reason being is the top burr set is attached to this collar and the bottom burr set is attached to the motor. And as you keep winding that down, you're getting closer for those burrs to touch each other, which essentially is getting finer on the grind. Now, once you've dialed this in, and let's say the little red marker on the front here is at 7, when you actually start to use that grinder over time, those blades are going to wear. And you're going to continually have to go finer and finer and finer, so that number technically will just keep increasing. So you might have started on 7, at the start of the year, and then halfway through the year you might be on a 9. So it's a matter of understanding that as you're going finer, those numbers are going to change. But once you've got it dialed in, you can then start to play from that point to get the recipe and the grind size that works for you. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is getting the first point to be close to an espresso extraction grind setting. So you might have just got a brand new grinder and you have no idea where to start. Well, I can tell you out of the box, it's going to be probably quite coarse. So what you can do is you can remove your whole burr set, and in this case here, we're going to go coarser. And it's a very fine thread, but they will come out. And even if you've cleaned your grinder, you can do this at any time. So there we go. So you can see your top burr set and your bottom burr set. Now, if you pull it out, give it a vacuum and clean, that's really going to keep the health of your grinder, and it's going to clean up the chute as well as it's going out into your dosing pot or your handle. If you keep these clean all the time, the next things we're going to talk about are going to be far easier to adjust grinds. So clean up your thread, put a bit of food grade grease on there if you can as well, and we want to put our thread back in place. So there's such a fine thread, make sure you go coarse first. You hear that little click? That means the threads have lined up backwards, and that allows us then just to line up the 2 threads nice and easy, and we're going to go as fine as we possibly can. And I'm just holding down the lock. So every grinder usually has a lock of some sort. This is a little stepped mechanism here. So I'm just holding it all the way down, and I am going to keep going all the way around, a long way around, many times, until we get down to where the blades actually touch each other. So if we have a look inside here, okay, almost there, and you'll see the bottom motor actually touch and move with there it is there. So you can see that that bottom burr set is now actually moving with the top burr set as I go around. So that is basically where the blades are touching. We want to come back half a turn from there, lock it off, and we're going to put some beans in and test that. And now we're very close to espresso, but we'd have to then start to dial it in and match our recipe. So now I just want to demonstrate to you how easy it is to dial that grind in. And we're just using a Precision GS7 here today. Got my beans, which are perfectly aged. So these are roasted on the 18th. So we were about, how many days old? What are we today? The 2nd. So there you go, 12 days old, Champion, our main blend. It smells amazing. Going to open up our hopper slide, and those beans are going to fall in. So our recipe, if you're not familiar, is 22.5 grams of ground coffee into the handle, and we're going to get a 2-to-1 out of that in an extraction, which is 45 grams, and we're looking for 30 to 32 seconds. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grind off, just using the manual setting, and I'm going to get 22.5 grams. So we've got our dosing pot teared off. All right, so we'll check that weight. There we go, we've got 23.4, so we're a little bit over. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of that grind out. Okay, we'll just pinch a little bit back more in there. I didn't have anywhere to put that grind, but the old hopper lid is coming in quite handy now. Right, gee whiz, over and under. There we go, look, 22.7. A smidge over. So what we're going to do is we've got our clean, dry handle with a 22 gram basket in there. We're going to pop on our dosing pot, put on our flare funnel as well, and we'll give it a quick little WDT. So that's going to help break up any clumps that are happening in your grinder. Really important to do this, really good investment if you've got a smaller, cheaper grinder, because we know that a cheaper grinder will have a lower quality particle size, and it will certainly help get a better extraction. Give it a little tap, an NCD to distribute that, and then we're just going to give it a nice tamp as well. All right, so we're going to check this recipe. Going to just put the timer on here as well. All right, and we're going to hit go on our timer and check this extraction. Woo! That's pretty wild. All right, that's pretty wild. That water was going through pretty fast, so we ended up at 48 grams in 17 seconds. So it's clear that we need to go finer again. All right, so that was pretty wild. We know that was coming out way too fast. Now, you might think, oh, I'll just go finer and then I'll keep trying from here on in. The easiest way to do that is just get yourself, I don't know, a way to see what grind's coming out and watch the actual grind particle size. So if we have a look here, I'm gonna start it manually. And I want to get to the point where it actually starts to just clump a little bit. Here we go, I'm going finer each time. There we go. Great, so you can see they're starting to ball, and that's pretty much going to be where we need to be for an espresso. So that's how much I've had to use just to dial in our grind. We could weigh this and just check and see what that amount is. How can I do that? I can pop that in the cup here for you. There we go, so 12 grams. That's all I've had to use to get to the point where I reckon we're pretty close on grind. So basically half our normal extraction to be able to dial in what I reckon is going to be pretty close. So let's get another full 22.5 grams of coffee. .6, so just a smidge more. Okay, got myself a teaspoon now. Here we go. All right, now let's test this one. Just follow the same process again. You can see there it's definitely needing some sort of WDT because there are these big clumps there, so just going to work those up. Break them up. Here we go. Here's our NCD. Give it a tamp. Oh. Here we go. And we'll set this up to test our extraction again. Just got to get that time to reset. Okay, cool. Lock in our handle, start our time. Just a little bit of pre-infusion. There you go, you can see it's already taking longer to come through, and that is looking like a pretty good chocolatey, nice espresso. A couple little squirts happening there. There we go, so 24 seconds, 49 grams. This is actually pretty fresh coffee, and we did almost get to a little bit of a over extraction there. But we are already so close to a recipe. All right, so 24 seconds. We're a little bit over on the extraction there at 48 grams, me just not quite stopping that right. But all we'd have to do now is make one finer adjustment and we'd pretty much be on our recipe. That'll give us a couple more seconds, getting us up to that 30 seconds. So I've been able to show you there with 2 handles and a little bit of grind that we have basically got a shot that would be drinkable. Now it's not going to be perfect on our recipe, but if we hadn't have done that first handle, which would have been 22.5 grams less coffee used, and that was our first test, I can show you that all we've used in coffee to get to this point, by setting those blades so that they touched and then came back half a turn, and then by looking at the grind to see where it's clumping, we've again only used 12, almost 13 grams there, plus 1 handle of 22.5. So we're at 35 grams of coffee and we're almost at recipe. So that's an amazing quick way to get to achieve a tasty espresso, not the best, but almost, to get your dialed in single origin or blend as quick as you can without wasting half a bag. Now the other common question that we get asked is how much retention is in my grinder, in the chute basically, and from the blades through, and how much does it actually hold if we were trying to use it as a single dosing grinder. So I'm going to show you how to test that. We're going to close the hopper on this grinder. Now, we've obviously been running some shots, so from the blades through, the chute is full. Ah! Dropping some beans everywhere. Number 1 rule, don't spill the beans. That is pretty common, to be honest. In small home domestic grinders, the collars are so small, the beans are quite top heavy, so don't go doing that to yourself and drop beans everywhere. So I'm just going to clean out this top here quickly. Might be able to get them out a little bit easier with this. I would normally tip this upside down or grab a vacuum, but I don't want to do that today because I want to not stir up how much grind is on the other side of these burrs just yet. All right, so I've got a fair few of those out of the way. And now you can see just by bumping it, I have already lost a little bit of grind that was inside that chute. So I'm just going to get this scale ready. I'm going to pop on a big container here, see if I can tear that off. Yep, I got that, great. So I'm just going to pick up the grinder and literally just shake it and see how much grind comes out. And this is basically going to, there we go, show you how much is inside your grinder from the blades. There you go. All right, so what do we got? We got 5 grams. So there you go. The GS7 has 5 grams of grind retention inside the chute. Now, that is only if you've got your hopper on top with full beans and you're trying to make a grind change. So if you made an adjustment, half of that, so it'll take 5 grams to push through the old grind before you can get to your new grind. Now, some commercial grinders can actually be a lot bigger on this. They could be up to say 20 odd grams. So in the industry commercially, we say, all right, grind one handle and just ditch it, just to make sure that you don't have this problem. But again, we're looking at wastage and we want to be a little bit more precise in saving you not wasting some of those lovely beans. So there's a tip there to help you. Now, the other thing to consider is single dosing. So how much does the grinder actually hold when we're dosing the exact amount of beans in? So I'm going to take you through that process right now. All right, so we've got our hopper closed here. I'm just going to quickly clean out this grinder. Here we go. There's nothing else in there. Give it a bit of a tap. Okay, now they were the beans that were sitting on top of the burrs, so I can't put that into my equation. I'm going to remove these beans. There's nothing in the hopper there. You might want to have a quick little look, you see. A little bit of static there. Okay, I'm going to weigh out our, let's do 20 grams just for an example here. Just to keep some easy numbers. So because the chute is clean, the speed of the grind should be able to throw that all the way out. It doesn't have to hopefully block up in that chute and be 5 grams. But let's just see. So I'm going to open up my chute. Oh, I'm going to open my chute after I've got my beans, my dosing pot ready to catch it. So 20 grams in, we're going to start that grinder. Always best to start a grinder when you're doing single dose so it's got full speed, ready to throw through those first grinds. A little bit of popcorning on the GS7, but not too bad for an entry-level grinder. It's actually really good. All right, there you go. Give it a bit of a, actually I'm not going to tap it because that's the retention that we're looking for. So here's the test. There you go, 18 grams. So in a single dosing environment, this grind is only going to hold 2 grams. If you've got a full hopper and you're trying to push the grind through and that chute is full of grind, it's 5 grams. So the tip here is if you're looking to really save on wastage, don't fill your bean hopper up. If you do have that really great single origin that you want to make a beautiful coffee with, or have multiple with a few grind changes in between, because we don't have to clear out 5 grams. So technically you're saving yourself 3 grams every time you change your grind when you're dialing in that beautiful single origin. So let's see if we can just give it a tap and get those last 2 grams out. All right, 1 gram. Okay, well, there you go, 1 gram. Better in the cup than left in your grinder for the next one. So there you go. I hope those few tips have helped you understand how grinders work and how you can dial in quicker to not waste as many beans. And I guess as a conclusion, it proves that single dosing, no matter the grinder, I mean, this is a $600 odd entry-level grinder, doesn't have a huge amount of retention, but it means that the burr set and the beans are all clean for you to make a change very easily and not have more wastage. So if you're not single dosing and you're not pre-weighing your beans or weighing them on the way out using dosing pots, there's definitely some validity there for you to save on grind and nail your perfect extraction grind setting a lot quicker, just by being able to assess them. So if you've got any other questions, guys, please leave a question down below. I'd happily answer those. And of course, many grinders behave a little bit differently, but we thought, hey, let's use an entry-level grinder just to see how this would go. Your conicals, your high-end grinders are all going to have their own grind retention, and some even claim to be 0 retention grinders. So that may be the right kind of information that you want to look for in your next grinder purchase. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.